Jimmy came from nothing. And yeah, the after was phenomenal. The before was amazing. The while president, not so good.
He was the boy from Georgia, from the small town of Plains to the presidency.
My name is Jimmy Carter, and I'm running for president.
Growing up on a peanut farm in a home with no running water or electricity, he would forge his own path, an outsider determined to take on a corrupt Washington and to try to turn the page.
I say to you quite frankly that the time for racial discrimination is over.
His path to the presidency began in Plains, valedictorian of his high school, graduate of the Naval Academy, and after running the family business, he would turn to politics. In 1970, Carter was elected governor, but so unknown nationally, when he came onto the game show What's My Line, no one knew who he was.
Is this anything to do with the world of fashion?
No. 2 down, 8 to go, Donna.
Nobody even knew who he was. I mean, that's who he was. Unassuming. Just an interesting character. A guy whose life we'd all sign up for today, by the way. 100 years? Bell and I were talking about that earlier. Like, 100 years? Sign me up, right?
You cannot complain when you had a really, really good run like that.
It's interesting because everybody's talking about, like, because people are already hammering him and, oh, he was this, he was a lot of stuff. And he readily admit he wasn't a great president. He struggled. We can go on to the, obviously Iran was a big deal, the oil embargo, Moscow, and the boycotting of the Olympics. We can go on. And of course, the thing that really draws a comparison is Operation Eagle Claw. If you guys don't know what that is the beginning of the end of him as a politician, because he greenlit, we're going to go save all of as many as we can get out. We're going to go save them in Iran. And there was a massive sandstorm. We lost 8 of our people. Helicopters crashed. It was a nightmare.
And for anybody too young to remember this, during Carter's presidency, the Ayatollah allowed college students from Iran to invade and take over our embassy.
Yeah.
And how many, they held them for
444 days.
That's right. Cause it was as soon as Reagan was sworn into office as president, they were on a plane and out of there.
Yeah. They were not thrilled, by the potential of Reagan, because they knew Reagan was, he was something different. I remember watching.
That cowboy's going bomb us.
One of the hostages said, they're like, hey, Jimmy Carter's out. We won, kind of stuff. And they go, who won? And they go, Reagan. And he goes, and they kind of looked around and, are you kidding me?
That'll deflate you.
Yeah. And look, the interesting thing is so many of these young kids, they didn't plan on holding these people for this long. This also gave us Dateline with Ted Koppel. That's how Dateline started, was the hostages. And that's how Dateline, or Nightline, that's how Nightline started, was the hostage thing. But I remember as a kid waking up, and every day it would be like day 7 of hostages, day 33 on the front page of the paper, day 87. And, you're like 9 years old. You're trying to come to grips with what the hell's happening over there. Who are these people that hate us so much? And why do they hate us? And there's a lot to it, but the reality is it was this was all him. I mean, this thing, he allowed, there was so many things that he did that happened under his watch that got sideways and squirrely. But once Operation Eagle Claw happened, everything went to hell in a handbasket. And he never recovered. And then the oil embargo and the oil nightmare, I was listening to Chris and Ken talk about it. I remember as a kid going, okay, what's the end of our license plate? Because if it's an odd, we can only go like Monday and Wednesdays. If it's an even, we can go Tuesdays and Thursdays. If it's a letter, you can go like, Mondays and Saturdays. It was so bizarre the way that they did it. But that's where we were. And again, this guy was great afterwards. And he lives, he talked about the fact that it was his wife. 77 years they were married. Think about that. 77 years is a long time to spend with one human being. He wanted to wait around, though. He wanted to do everything he could to vote for Kamala, and he did. It was so bad it killed him.
The inauguration.
Not exactly the exit you want to have as your last vote being a losing one.
What's his name? Today on the Babylon Bee said, it was one of their headlines. It said, Jimmy Carter has confirmed he will not be coming to the inauguration.
That's terrible.
What's terrible? Like what, I've always said this, and great comedy does this. Tragedy plus time equals comedy. But he lived 100 years. This wasn't like, oh, it's a tragedy. He was taken out at the end of his life. With so much to live for. Yeah, no. He wanted to go. He was ready. He wanted to get through this, and he did, and he moved on.
Inauguration Day, he and the First Lady would leave the limo behind. They wanted to walk the parade.
And this is more like it was in the old days.
The time had come to sign the peace.
Human rights would drive his foreign policy. He helped forge an historic peace agreement between Israel and Egypt, which still stands today.
I'm so proud of both of you. God bless you, Mr. President.
Got the president of Egypt killed, but whatever.
That would have been his legacy if it hadn't have been for Eagle Claw.
Yeah. And the whole, there was so much that, rampant inflation. Not everybody's up for the task. Like some people freeze. Some people they don't do well in the limelight. And when things happen, pressure happens, he was slow to react. And when he did react, it was bad. He made the wrong choices at the wrong time. Outside, and you can look at Biden. You go draw that parallel between Afghanistan and Eagle Claw. Dude, it is 100%. Because Biden's approval rating was actually above 50. And then that happened, and it cratered, and he never got it back. He never got it back. And then afterwards, obviously, he left, and he changed everything. He became a person of the people. He became a person who cared about everybody. He was as real as you could get. He was overmatched in so many ways, I think, in politics on the biggest stage. But he was so real as a human being. And the things he did for Habitat for Humanity, Nobel Peace Prize, to wipe out, I think it was the guinea worm, was this worm that affects about 4 million people. He wanted to eradicate it. It doesn't kill you, but you're going to wish you died kind of thing. Trust me, you're going to, I was reading about it. I was like, oh my God. It's like one of the worst things ever. But he was an upstanding human being. And, Trump and Melania, they sent out an amazing thing, and all the presidents up there talking about him that are still alive, and the people that knew him, including Biden. It was fine. It was everything he needed. No, he didn't like Trump and his attitude. But you know what he did do, which I don't hear a lot of people talking about? He offered, on behalf of Trump, to go negotiate in North Korea and to do a couple things. Because he was first and foremost, he was a Christian man, but he was an American. And he was, again, a different character. And everybody's like, is this a big deal or not? I said, well, no, not the death of, if he was 52, this would have been a totally different story. But he's not. He was 100. He's older than the guy that's president now, who's not all there, by the way. So much stuff to talk about today. A lot of things. More on Jimmy Carter, just because it was a fascinating life. He was the first president to be born in a hospital. He was the first president to use a nickname when he was sworn in. His real name's James. This was a guy he did a lot of firsts, and he championed alternative energies. He did a lot of different stuff that was... Today we go, oh my God, like solar power and all that stuff. He was a big proponent of those things. And he did say one of the things that I always thought was one of the great ththings ever. The new president said, California is the petri dish of crazy. Right? They're the ones who are, because he was a Democrat, but he was a conservative Democrat. He was, right. And for those of you, he struggled with abortion in a major way. He struggled with abortion big time. Struggle with abortion. He came around to same-sex marriage, But the abortion thing he struggled with his entire life because of his belief of life, because of who he was. But I think he'll be remembered not as a president. I think he'll be remembered as an American that was a great human being, as I think he should be. Again, don't have to like his politics, but we can salute him for what he did. I think that's a fair thing to do. Bunch of stuff, like I said, to get to today. And then, of course, starting Thursday, man, we got so much stuff. Working on a bunch of stuff this weekend. Show's going to be different. So if you're new, my name's Chad Benson. I'm on noon till 3 every single day. Matt's moved from 3 till 7. But we got a lot of stuff. Fast-moving show. Appreciate when you text me. People say you don't take phone calls. My other show that I've done for years, I've never taken a phone call, mostly because I go so fast. We're going to go through a lot of stuff. And it's one of those things where I also, as well as Bell, we're going to reach out. You reach out to me via text, whatever it is, I'm going to get back to you as much as I possibly can. You can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Chad Benson Show. Check out my YouTube and all the other things because we do a bunch of different things. But we're going to have a lot of fun. And that's the most important thing. Politics, absolutely, pop culture, fun, wackiness, real life stuff as we talk about here. And I look forward to 2025. Big stuff. Are you guys doing anything for are you doing anything on the night? Which is tomorrow night, right?
Yeah. No, I don't do amateur hour, man. I run with the big dogs.
I don't do it. It is tough to get out there, dude. I tell you what, it is. I don't drink. I've never had a drink in my life. I've never done a drug. I've never smoked a cigarette. I'm pretty much a teetotaler. I just refuse. First of all, it's going to be, what did I hear you say, Ken? There's going to be like 200,000 people out and about?
200,000.
No, thank you.
That includes Ken, though.
No. There's no way. There's just no way I would ever even think about that. And as you get older, you guys recognize this. Parking is my number one issue. Like, what's parking like?
Yeah. Now, see, there was a time in my life when, I never got tired and I never got annoyed, and I would have been right there in the middle of everybody.
Yeah. And you know what they called that time?
In your 20s?
Your youth.
Yeah, exactly.